Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning if you are in North America. My name is Daryl Ullman. I'm a partner at SAMexpert. Today, I have with me my honored guest and regular talker on our program, Alexander Golev, our CEO and head licensing expert. Alex, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Daryl. Yeah, and today we're going to talk about provider
SPLA.
stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk about everything to do with SPLA licensing. We've got a number of questions, as usual, from our followers, and we're going to make this as interactive as possible. As always, if you have any questions, please type them out, send them over to us. If you want to send it offline, you can send it to info@samexpert.com, or you can always go onto our website or onto our LinkedIn page and post the questions there. We are monitoring all the various channels. So let's kick off. And Alex, our first question is actually coming from the US, from one of our US customers that approached us, I think it was a week ago or 10 days ago, and a very interesting subject. So they received an audit letter, or it seems like a self-audit letter, and it didn't come directly from Microsoft. It came from a Microsoft partner requesting a self-audit for their SPLA, their SPLA licensing agreement. Not standard. We haven't seen many of those. So do you want to just share your thoughts about that? Why they received a self-audit? Who is the partner? Has Microsoft changed their strategy? Do you need to provide all the information? Are there any risks? And in general, what would be your recommendations in that case?
Yeah, so interesting stuff. So I think the only reason why we only heard about it recently is because we work internationally, and I dug deeper into this in the last couple of weeks since we received that email, or whatever, 10 days. It seems like that practice has existed for quite a while. And I think the reason we haven't heard about it much is because Microsoft is targeting small providers. If somebody is reporting less than 1,000 a month, there's no reason to send Deloitte to them, for example. Absolutely, I see no financial reason, because what will they recover? They charge more than Microsoft will probably earn from such an exercise. So you should remember that, because I think you were still working in Microsoft. There was a partner-led initiative by Microsoft, which was called Some Services. And that was also sort of self-audits. Plus, there were also self-audits. And that was targeted. I remember, because I was working with Microsoft at the time, not for Microsoft, that's important. And I remember that those initiatives were primarily targeted at the small business clients. Obviously, partners also had deals of large sizes, but much, I would say, fewer, and significantly fewer deals with larger clients. And in this case, it just seems that when I was digging into this, it seems like only small providers are getting those letters. And what small companies tend to do, they're terrified to even question Microsoft. No. Even in our conversations with these clients, you remember that, you tell them, guys, just push back on the timelines and everything. You have all the rights, and they're very scared. It's Microsoft sent a scary letter. They're going to audit us. They're going to penalize us. We have to, drop everything and just concentrate on the audit. But you don't. That's the thing. So it all depends on how you want to behave. It all depends on you. But let me give you two polarized opinions about this. So firstly, I would probably comply, take control, but comply, because you never know. They may send an auditor. If you very hardly push back and say, no, we're not going to give you anything. This is against the agreement that was signed with you. And by the way, spoilers, it is completely against the agreement. So that's kind of first thought. You should still probably work together with Microsoft on the resolution of that. On the other hand, as it is, again, entirely against what you signed in your agreement with Microsoft, you can say, you know what, dear Microsoft, I realize you want to audit us. I realize we may be a very small fish. That's fine. But let's put something straight. Because firstly, the letter starts with something like, we have a right to audit you, therefore, please in 1 week, submit us the data. Here's the link to the map tool. And by the way, this person in the CC will be helping you through this process. The letter comes from an anonymous address, unlike audit letters that come from the LCC department and usually signed by somebody who, the head of that department, so you have a person behind it. These letters come from an anonymous address, and in the CC, there's a person that may appear to you as they work for Microsoft, but well, they sort of do, but they're not Microsoft. So it's a third party with a so-called V- address, V- and then the name at Microsoft.com. So, and by the way, you may not know, but anything that starts with V- or A-, they're not really Microsoft employees.
They're vendors. They're vendors. External employees.
So,
or partners.
What SPLA demands, the agreement, is, what it stipulates is you have, Microsoft can send you an independent auditor, importantly, independent auditor. This is all protected by NDAs, but you have a right to sign an NDA with that independent auditor. And the way they work, by the way, they do not, the big four companies, they don't provide Microsoft the raw audit data. It's part of the process. You have 30 days to to react to the notice. Well, it's not like you can say no, but you signed for it. And then there's a stipulated process. Here, this is not an independent party. You can insist on an NDA easily, because, well, it's a third party if you want to. And then what I don't like about those letters, obviously, I can't disclose you, I can't show you the actual letter. But what I don't like about those letters is they impose, using very, very aggressive language, they impose very short and strict deadlines on you. I mean, with all due respect, if I'm an outsourcer and I've got 100 clients and they all have one or two servers in our data center, and I have other fish to fry, and they're giving you 1 week, you don't have to comply with it. That's absolutely up to you. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to go back and say, no, you know what, this is all wrong. We're not going to comply. Just be polite. Be polite, but understand that you have the upper hand. That process is not what you agreed upon when you signed a SPLA agreement.
So, Alex,
Again,
I want to just ask you a very simple question. If you have to give those small providers 3 actionable giveaways, what would be those 3 giveaways? What would be the 3 most important recommendations that they should follow when they receive a self-audit for the SPLA environment?
I would say if we're not going hostile with Microsoft.
No, we're not going hostile.
We want to do things
ball.
nicely. We want to play ball. I would ask them to clarify who the hell is that person behind the email? Whom do they actually work for?
Politely, without the
politely, without who the hell. But can you please explain who's this person? Whom do they work for? We know it's not Microsoft. Secondly, when you receive that answer, hopefully they will, if you ask politely, insist on an NDA. This is a new party. You didn't sign an agreement with them. They're not subject to the Microsoft's framework when they work with independent auditors. Insist on an NDA. And thirdly, respond to them with your timeline. We're going to provide you the data. It's going to happen in 2 months. It's up to you. There is no stipulation. You didn't agree to this. And if they can threaten you with a legal action. By the way, watch our channel. We're going to publish an interview with a real American lawyer in California. But the way American courts work, this is never going to stand in court. And to be honest, vendors will make every impression that they're happy to go to court. They're not. They don't want it. They want to avoid it at all costs. So, and if you're a small provider, trust me, nobody's going to litigate against you. So,
okay, Alex.
yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for those recommendations. I think those are really important. I just wanted to maybe summarize what you've just said. First of all, don't stress. Don't have an anxiety attack. You can control the self-audit on your terms, but cooperate and take your time. And you'll see that things will work out. So I think that is what Alex, basically, the message is. Take control of the self-audit and cooperate.
Strictly speaking, you need to take control of any audit, not just self-audits. But with self-audits,
That's true. But let's be specific about the self-audit.
you're
Thank
in a
you for
much
that.
stronger. Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that information. I think that for our small service providers, this is really important to understand what it means and what the actions should be. We also have some additional questions, maybe even a slightly more technical, that I would like to ask you. So we got one from one of our European-based providers. The question is, can we use SQL Developer on our multi-tenant platform? We have clients that have dev test virtual machines and they installed SQL Developer.
Here's a little bit of a story. About 6 years ago, I was going through one of my not first audits, but maybe like 10th or 12th. So in the first 10 or 20 audits. And there was a provider with multiple instances of SQL Server Developer across the estate. And the auditor at the time insisted that they have to pay for it as for SQL Enterprise. And we actually managed to push back. But the argument from the auditor was that Microsoft, firstly, doesn't allow it to be used on third-party servers. And that the functionality of SQL Server Developer is exactly the same functionality as SQL Server Enterprise. But essentially, I think at the time it was already free. I may be wrong, but I think it was already free. And now, this year, we started again dealing with providers with quite a number of SQL Server Developer across the estate. And therefore, the question popped up again. And we did research, which was not very difficult because we know where to look exactly. And it appears that, to our surprise, Microsoft explicitly allows using SQL Server Developer on third-party shared servers. Therefore, if you're a provider and your client deploys SQL Server Developer, there's only one thing you need to check, and they need to confirm that, is that that virtual machine is not used for production. Other non-production licenses like Visual Studio or MSDN, they cannot bring those to shared hardware. They can only pay for Visual Studio through SPLA. But SQL Server Developer, to a massive surprise, is fair game.
So that's something that's changed from the past.
It's positive. It's positive, and then
So that's
because
a positive
SQL
change. That's more flexibility in the way SQL Server Developer is used, deployed. But you do need to make sure that it's a test dev environment or test dev machine, and you're not mixing and matching test dev with production, because otherwise it's going to become very messy.
And by the way, if you have any questions about, if you have doubts about it, we have a QR code here, which leads to our website and the email. And by the way, it's not info, it's ask@SAMexpert.com. Yeah, send your questions. We'll see if we can help.
Great. Let's move on to another question. As follows: we underreported licenses for the last 6 months. Our reseller is telling us that we need to pay more with this coming month's report to add the difference. What's your recommendation in a case like that?
I'll be very precise so you avoid that mistake. You only have 60 days, not more, to correct an incorrect report. That's it. If you misreported for 6 months, do not listen to anyone who tells you, I'll just pay the difference this month. Microsoft will never, unless you ask very politely, but otherwise never take that as a back payment. It'll be just money wasted. So if you are in a situation like this and you realize that you underpaid 6 months ago, or you have been underpaying for 6 months, a year, anything above 60 days, you need to involve 3 parties. So yourselves, Microsoft and your reseller, and get a resolution in writing. Get an email from Microsoft confirming that Microsoft is happy with you to resolve it this way. Please do not go with the reseller suggestions. We've seen it too many times. It never works like this. So moreover, the stipulation in your agreement only says that you can correct overpayment, so you can ask for your money back. There's nothing about the underpayment, but we still suggest go through the same route for any underpayments, because essentially it's a corrective measure, and that there are 60 days when your reseller can go back to Microsoft and actually amend that report and take corrective measures. After that, as I said, it's a case-by-case custom solution, and you need a written confirmation from Microsoft. Nothing verbal, nothing through the reseller. Oh, it's going to be fine. No, it won't.
Alex, thank you for that clarification. I think this is really important, because many times it might not even be your mistake. It might be some misguidance by your reseller, that they just picked up on a mistake that they've been making. And as you just said, that paying retroactively won't actually solve the problem. So thank you for that. That's really important information. We have a question regarding QMTH. So if you can just explain just 1 second, what is QMTH for those resellers that are not acquainted, service providers that aren't acquainted with QMTH, and is QMTH still required?
Good one. We actually were asking this week exactly in exactly that form, but these questions are coming from various providers in the community, not only to us, in the Microsoft community. QMTH is, interestingly, this authorization is still active for those who were authorized to be QMTH.
Alex, what is QMTH? Alex, what's QMTH?
Here's what I'm trying to explain. It stands for Qualified Multi-Tenant Hoster. Qualified for what? Qualified to host Windows 11 and Microsoft 365 applications. Normal SPLA providers did not, before October 2022, did not have an authorization. They couldn't allow end clients to deploy Windows 11 and Office 365 apps on shared hardware, only on dedicated hardware. That was allowed only on dedicated hardware. QMTH was a special authorization, very hard to get, extremely hard to get, that gave the right to a provider to allow their clients to bring Windows 11 licenses and Office 365 licenses to a shared infrastructure, and essentially, deploy VDIs, use Office 365 in the provider's infrastructure on their VMs. But October 2022, Microsoft said now every provider can host any subscription licenses. So QMTH, you may still keep it if you want to, if you fancy it, but you don't need it. You can throw it away. And to host the same Windows 11 and Microsoft 365 right now, you need nothing. Simple as that.
So that's a huge benefit
Yeah.
for smaller providers that couldn't meet that QMTH requirement.
Not only, and for the end clients as well, because imagine if I'm an end client, honestly, why would I know that I cannot deploy? Say I rent VMs for my small business from a provider, and I rent Windows Server VMs, and I install with my admin rights Microsoft 365 applications and that virtual machine. I am non-compliant, and the provider is non-compliant. How would I know I'm not allowed to install that? Unless the provider proactively informs me about it. Will I even read the terms and conditions? You know how people read licenses. They say, yeah, I agree. And now I have no such headache. Now I'm not just limited to Azure. I can rent virtual machines from any European provider, not even European, worldwide provider, because it was first offered only to the European providers. And then when actually Microsoft rolled it out, they said it's a worldwide program, so it's not limited to Europe.
So that's a big benefit. So as we're seeing, there are positive licensing changes that have been introduced. We just discussed SQL Server Developer Edition. We discussed QMTH, the ability to bring Windows 11 and Office 365 to a multi-tenant environment. So with all the complexity, and this huge complexity out there still is, there are some new benefits. So we have come to the end of this session. I want to thank you, Alex, for taking the time, as usual, to share your vast knowledge. And I want to thank our audience for joining us. Please, if you have any additional questions, you've got a free knowledge base on our website. You've got our YouTube channel. You've got our LinkedIn channel. And as always, as Alex pointed out, you can go onto our website and send us any query that you have, or just send a query to ask@samexpert.com. And you've also got our SAMexpert Academy, where you can find SPLA-related training sessions, very unique, with a vast amount of knowledge and 16 modules of self-paced learning. So again, so Alex, as always,
22, Daryl, 22 sessions. It's crazy.
22, it's growing. 16 was, I think, 2 weeks ago. So it's grown to 22. Thank you. So thank you again, Alex. Thank you, everybody. And we'll be seeing you next week.
Thank you, Daryl. Everybody have a great time of the day. Bye-bye.